Actually, I was a journalist before I was working at Insomniac. I worked at a magazine called Electronic Gaming Monthly, EGM. I worked there for 5 years, and during that time, I was very fortunate to visit a lot of different studios, meet a lot of different developers, and Insomniac was always one of those. And I started getting that development itch about in year 4, and started thinking about it. And I had an amazing opportunity to come up to work at Insomniac in their community department. 10 years later, we're about to be releasing Spider-Man, and I'm the creative director, so it's been a wild ride. My name is Bryan Intihar. I'm the creative director at Insomniac Games, working on Marvel Spider-Man.
Heads up! Hey, where are you going?
Ted Price, our president CEO, grabbed a couple of us and said, "Hey, how would you feel about working with Sony again?" Because we were working with Microsoft at the time on Sunset Overdrive, and just that was wrapping up, and we talked. Sony was in the office, and then they came to us with an idea of possibly working with Marvel, and of course, I went crazy as a Marvel fan. I just was begging him we had to do it, constantly harassing him about it, and then I remember the first time we were in a company meeting. It was a little bit after that first initial discussion. Ted put the Marvel logo, like the red brick, on the wall, and just you could literally hear the gas going, and people just were like frozen, because we had never made a licensed game before. We'd always made new IP, but it was Marvel. It was and it was for us, for so many of us, we grew up on Marvel, whether it was comics, cartoons, and now the movies. So that being able to give him that opportunity we said, hell yes. You're coming to Insomniac because you like our games, right? And you want us to put our spin on it. At the same time, we want to be very respectful to the franchise and the DNA of the character, of the universe. So it's just finding that balance. And what I'm really proud about the game is that I feel like when you play it, it feels like a Spider-Man game made by Insomniac Games. It really feels like it has that DNA of our game, whether it's the traversal, whether it's the humor, whether it's the crazy gadgets he has, and many more. It just feels like an Insomniac game at heart. But we're fortunate enough to work with an amazing character like Spider-Man. Obviously, you have to have great web swinging. That's like number one, right? You got to have that. I hope that people can appreciate that you can feel like a superhero right away in terms of the traversal, but there's a level of skill and mastery as you go along. Combat-wise, I really like how much we give you a lot of choice of how you want to take down a scenario, whether it's your webs, whether it's your melee, environment action, stealth, gadgets, and combining them. But definitely for me, what I'm really proud of, outside of those other things, is I really feel like we're delivering the Peter Parker story as much as we are a Spider-Man experience. It really, I think, compared to a lot of other superheroes, so much of what makes a great Spider-Man experience is that Peter Parker side, and seeing the ups and downs of his life through that way, seeing the relatability, the vulnerability that you have as Peter, and actually letting you experience that not just in cinematics, but also in gameplay. I'm really, really proud of. I think when it comes to story, it's the first thing that drives every kind of Marvel experience, but for us, it's really about focusing on making this first game, awesome. That's, you can't think about what's not ahead, we gotta think about what's present, what gets us to a great experience on September 7th. His history has always been, he's kind of had this love-hate relationship with the city in terms of they either love him or some people think he's a menace, right? So we want to play that up. You heard the J. Jonah Jameson radio show, and he's constantly showing the other side of how the city might be seeing him. So as you play through the game, you'll see how the city changes, how it reacts to Spider-Man, but at the same time, his relationship with it. You'll definitely see the city evolve over time and how they react to him. Aunt May plays a role in the game. She actually works at Feast, which is run by Martin Lee. He started all the Feast shelters around town. So Aunt May is basically his mother figure in the game, and there's some lessons that she will bestow upon Peter as you play through the game and interact with her at Feast. This character fits us so well, and I think one of the reasons outside of traversal, very like Sunset Overdrive, gave us a great foundation for that. If you look at all the games throughout Insomniac's history, whether it's Ratchet and Clank, Resistance, Sunset Overdrive, we make really fun gadgets and weapons, and Pete is known for being a tech head and making his own stuff. So we just felt like it was a great marriage there, and that obviously you saw the web shooter, you saw the impact web, but the further you go in the game, some of the gadgets get a little bit crazier, and then obviously with suits, it's like, you know, that's every Spider-Man fan's like, you know, it's like, which suits are they going to put in the game? And we looked at both classic ones that people really like, maybe some unexpected ones that may be a little bit more rare that people haven't seen a lot of, and then we also created some original suits. So we kind of a plethora. But what I'm really excited about is not only do we have a visual look to them, but you can add basically suit modifications to each one, gives you little benefits throughout, whether it's combat, traversal, etc. But then most of the suits come with suit powers, and they're all kind of really fun and different, and they're tied to the suit. But at the same time, let's just say, you know, you like the you know, noir suit, but you really love the battle focus from Advanced. You can start mixing and matching your suit powers so you can look the way you want and play the way you want. Progression is kind of broken up into two different ways. I always think about it. You earn experience points for doing things in the game, and you earn a skill point, and that skill point lets you spend it in basically one of three different categories. Some are related more to traversal, combat, stealth, really playing up those elements. So it's like you're building new abilities. Then doing basically open world activities, city activities, and crimes, you know, bases, etc. And more to come. You earn tokens, and those tokens allow you to craft new gadgets, upgrades to gadgets, suits, as well as suit mods. So there's kind of basically two tracks. There's XP, gives you new skills that you can acquire, and then all the tokens allow you to craft new gear, and so suits, gadgets, and suit mods. So Yuri Lowenthal is our Spider-Man, and he is a very talented Spider-Man. And what we actually asked him to do was, because you can swing throughout, like we open the city up pretty much after the first mission, you can go wherever you want, right? And Peter can either be swinging or he can be just stand. So we actually dynamically change how he sounds based on if he's moving or not, which to Yuri's credit, he did a really good job with that, because that's pretty demanding on his voice. He recorded a lot of lines for this game.
MJ, I'm at the first location on your list, and guess what I found?
Like you've seen in the comics before, they have a very up and down relationship. At this point, they haven't spoken for 6 months when the game starts. They have kind of been living separate lives. And the events of the story bring them back together, as you saw when you played. And there's really two major themes that drive this story. One is mentorships, which ties into where Peter works and who he works for. And the second one is partnership. And MJ really is a driver of that. And it's part of Peter kind of realizing this next coming of age story of him, you know, now graduating college, being on his own, that, you know, it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to lean on others. And even when you are a superhero, and leaning on people who maybe don't have superpowers. I think that's that partnership, that theme of partnership really drives their relationship together throughout the game. I think the Ultimate Spider-Man franchise, what it did was it showed us that you can be very respectful to the franchise and the DNA of the character, but you also can mix it up. You can also surprise people. And I think a lot of examples of that is where Peter works is very different. He's never worked for this person or this place ever before. Mary Jane working for the Daily Bugle. The fact that Miles is in our world here. Norman's the mayor of New York City. And that's just kind of a sample of some of those things. So it's just finding that fine line of a world that people will find familiar, but at the same time will also feel fresh.
Just drop me off at the jail. No reason.
He's a man of the people in some way, that he always looking to help the little person.
How do I call you? I mean, you have like a cell phone in your pockets or something?
You got to play as Peter, you got to play as MJ. The rest you'll find out on September 7th.